Morning in an Edwardian home began not with alarm clocks, but with the quiet rhythm of duty, the gentle stir of servants' footsteps, and the faint hiss of the kettle as water began to boil in the kitchen below. Before the first beams of sunlight crept through the tall, lace-dressed windows, the house was already alive with movement. Those softly so-maids padding through narrow hallways, the cook stirring embers into flame, the smell of coal mingling with soap and bread dough. Upstairs, the master and mistress still slept beneath heavy embroidered quilts, their dreams cocooned in the silence of privilege, unaware of the quiet choreography unfolding below. The scullery maid, youngest of the staff, would begin her day in the cold stillness of the servants' quarters, scrubbing pots that had been left from the night before, her hands red from the chill of the basin. There was no hurry, only repetition, every motion known by heart. The Edwardian household ran on such constancy, 1,000 tiny tasks that began and ended in circles. By the time the first light touched the drawing room curtains, breakfast would be nearly ready, the sideboard gleaming and the silver polished to mirror brightness. The lady of the house would rise next, her maid entering quietly to draw the curtains, lay out her morning dress, and brush her hair until it shone. The rhythm was ancient and graceful, almost ceremonial, shaped by expectation and habit. In those soft, early hours, the Edwardian home was its own small universe, class and comfort balanced delicately over the hum of labor and the clink of porcelain. Outside, the world of 1905 was shifting. Motor cars were beginning to appear. Telephones were whispered novelties, but within these walls, life still moved to an older tune. The master would come down to his newspaper and eggs, the children to their porridge, and the servants would stand just far enough away to be invisible, yet near enough to anticipate every need. It was not a cruel system, though it was one of quiet endurance. Everyone knew their place. Every movement was practiced like a line in a play, and when the sun rose fully, spilling golden light across the fine china and the long polished table, the day truly began, not with noise, but with the calm certainty that it would unfold exactly as the day before. That sameness, that unbroken rhythm, was the comfort and the cage of Edwardian life. When the morning meal was finished and the polished plates returned to the scullery, the house shifted into a quieter rhythm. The air smelled faintly of toast, coal, and lilies from the hallway vase. Down the corridor, the children were already dressed, their white collars crisp, shoes gleaming, and ribbons tied just so. The nursery was their world, a high-ceilinged room with pale wallpaper, wooden toys, and a view of the back garden where the dew still clung to the grass. Nanny ruled there, stern but not unkind, her gray hair pulled tight beneath her cap, her voice soft yet absolute. Lessons began promptly, reading, penmanship, arithmetics, small hands gripping pencils, small brows furrowed in concentration. From below came the distant hum of the servants cleaning the breakfast dishes, a steady rhythm that blended with the ticking of the nursery clock. At 11, when the sun warmed the edges of the windows, the children were led into the garden. The Edwardian garden was a world of perfect order, rose bushes trimmed to symmetry, gravel paths raked smooth, fountains whispering to themselves beneath the elm trees. The boy would chase his hoop along the path, while his sister knelt among the flowers, her curiosity always straying beyond what was considered proper. It was a world both beautiful and small, a childhood gilded with calm, yet fenced by invisible rules. Beyond the gate, one could hear the distant rattle of a motor car or the whistle of a train, reminders that the world was growing faster, more modern. But inside the garden walls, time lingered like perfume. The children laughed, tumbled, and for a while forgot their lessons, their voices carrying toward the windows where their mothers sometimes stood watching. She would smile faintly, one hand resting on the sill, before turning back to her embroidery or the letters she needed to write. The day rolled forward like clockwork, each moment measured, each sound in its place. The garden, with its roses and order and sunlight, was not only a space for play, contained, quietly breathing in a time that was already beginning to fade. Daily life in an Edwardian home was heavily shaped by the practicalities of heating, lighting, and other household utilities. Unlike modern households, which rely on central heating, electricity, and running water, Edwardian families had to carefully manage these resources to maintain comfort and hygiene. Heating was one of the most demanding aspects of daily life. Most homes depended on coal-fired fireplaces located in the main rooms, such as the parlor, kitchen, and sometimes bedrooms. Coal had to be delivered regularly, often stored in a coal bunker near the house, and tended daily to keep fires burning efficiently. Fireplaces were labor-intensive. Ashes had to be cleared, fires rekindled, and rooms monitored for warmth. Wealthier families might have early forms of central heating, but this was rare, and most households experienced uneven warmth, with front parlors being cozy while upstairs bedrooms remained cold in winter months. Lighting was another significant challenge. Gas lamps were still widely used, and while they provided steady illumination, they required daily attention. Lamps needed to be filled with gas, wicks trimmed, and glass mantles cleaned regularly. Candles were also used as backup or for ambience. The introduction of electricity in some homes brought brighter and steadier lighting, but this innovation was primarily found in affluent areas. Managing lighting influenced the family's daily schedule, as many activities, including reading, sewing, or studying, were constrained by the availability of adequate light, particularly during long winter evenings. Water and plumbing varied greatly between households. Middle-class homes sometimes had running water, usually in the kitchen and occasionally in a bathroom. However, many families still relied on wells, pumps, or collected rainwater for washing and cooking. Baths were typically weekly rather than daily, reflecting both the scarcity of water and the labor involved in heating it. Waste disposal posed further challenges. Urban homes often relied on outhouses or shared street facilities, while more rural households used pit latrines or simple chamber pots. Families had to carefully manage water usage, balancing practical needs with hygiene, and often adopted strict routines to ensure cleanliness. Household routines were structured around these limitations. Coal deliveries had to be scheduled and stored safely, fires maintained, water collected and heated, and lamps lit each evening. Cleaning was intensive. Floors were swept and scrubbed, windows cleaned, and fireplaces tended. Kitchen work was also affected by these utilities. Cooking on coal or wood stoves required skill and attention, as temperature control was difficult, and tasks like boiling water or baking were labor-intensive. The management of these resources was a constant concern, shaping the rhythm of family life and creating a daily schedule that revolved around necessity rather than convenience. Despite these challenges, Edwardian families adapted impressively. Mothers, older daughters, and servants, if present, coordinated heating, lighting, and water usage to maintain comfort and efficiency. The work involved in managing these utilities was significant, demanding both physical effort and careful planning. Children were often taught to assist in small ways, such as bringing coal, lighting lamps, or fetching water, instilling responsibility and awareness of domestic labor. Technological innovations during the Edwardian period gradually eased some burdens. Early electric lights, improved stoves, and more reliable plumbing began to appear in wealthier homes, hinting at the modernization to come. However, for most middle-class families, daily life remained demanding and highly structured around the management of basic household needs. Comfort and cleanliness required careful planning, teamwork, and constant effort, highlighting both the labor-intensive nature of domestic life and the ingenuity families applied to manage it successfully. The interiors of Edwardian homes marked a significant shift from the heavily ornate and darkly decorated Victorian style toward lighter, more functional, yet elegant spaces. Decor during this period aimed to balance comfort with a sense of propriety, reflecting both the family's social status and their personal taste. Walls were often painted in light colors such as cream, soft greens, pale blues, or pastel yellows, which helped brighten rooms and created a feeling of space. Patterned wallpapers featuring floral damask or geometric designs were used selectively, often on a single wall or in the parlor, to add visual interest without overwhelming the room. Furniture in Edwardian homes was carefully chosen to combine functionality with aesthetics. In the parlor, the centerpiece might be a polished wooden table surrounded by upholstered chairs or settees. Cabinets or display cases often held fine china, silverware, or small ornamental items, signifying both the family's taste and their social standing. Beds in bedrooms were typically simple but comfortable, with multiple layers of sheets, blankets, and decorative pillows. Wardrobes and chests of drawers were common for clothing storage, and sewing tables or writing desks might be present in wealthier households. The furniture's design emphasized clean lines and subtle ornamentation rather than the heavy carvings common in Victorian times, reflecting the Edwardian preference for elegance over excess. Textiles played an important role in home decor. Carpets were used throughout parlors and bedrooms to provide warmth, comfort, and a sense of cohesion within rooms. Heavy drapes or curtains softened light from large windows while adding color and pattern. Linens, doilies, and embroidered items were popular decorative touches, often made by the women of the household or purchased from local artisans. Such items served both practical and ornamental purposes, demonstrating skill, care, and attention to detail. Lighting and accessories were also carefully considered. Gas lamps, early electric lamps, and candles provided illumination while doubling as decorative elements. Mantelpieces were often adorned with framed family photographs, clocks, small vases of flowers, or ornamental figurines, which reflected both taste and sentimentality. Even the smallest details, like polished doorknobs, neatly arranged shelves, or tidy windowsills were seen as indicators of a well-run home. Families took pride in presenting an orderly, attractive environment, especially in rooms visible to guests. The arrangement of furniture was purposeful, reflecting both social function and domestic routine. Parlors were designed for entertaining visitors or hosting family gatherings, while kitchens focused on efficiency for cooking and household management. Bedrooms emphasized rest and privacy, with beds and wardrobes placed to maximize space and light. Children's rooms were often simple but orderly, with practical furniture for sleeping, studying, and play. Attics or storage spaces, when present, were organized for utility rather than display, holding seasonal items, spare furniture, or household supplies. Despite the appearance, maintaining an Edwardian home required daily labor. Floors needed sweeping and polishing, carpets beaten or vacuumed, windows cleaned, and furniture dusted. Servants or family members performed these chores meticulously, ensuring that both comfort and aesthetics were preserved. In addition, decor reflected moral and social values. A clean, orderly, and tastefully furnished home symbolized respectability, discipline, and attention to family well-being. Overall, the Edwardian approach to home decor and furniture combined beauty, practicality, and social signaling. Homes were designed to support family life while conveying a sense of taste, refinement, and moral propriety. Every item, from the furniture to small decorative touches, contributed to a domestic environment that balanced comfort with elegance, reflecting the aspirations and values of early 20th century British families. Life in an Edwardian home, despite the elegance of its decor and architecture, was far from easy. Maintaining a household required constant effort, as families contended with the limitations of early 20th century technology, labor-intensive chores, and the demands of social propriety. Even middle-class households faced challenges related to heating, cooking, cleaning, hygiene, and household management, which shaped the rhythm of daily life and influenced every member of the family. Heating was one of the most demanding domestic tasks. Most homes relied on coal-fired fireplaces to keep living spaces warm, which required regular stocking, careful maintenance, and constant attention. During the cold winter months, fires had to be kept burning throughout the day in the main rooms, while bedrooms often remained chilly due to limited heating. Coal, dust, and ash created additional cleaning work as it spread across floors, hearths, and furniture. The task of maintaining warmth fell largely on mothers, daughters, and any servants, emphasizing the labor-intensive nature of domestic life. Cooking also presented significant challenges. Edwardian kitchens lacked modern appliances such as electric ovens, microwaves, or refrigerators. Meals were prepared on coal or wood-fired stoves, which demanded skill and careful monitoring to prevent burning or under. Daily meal preparation involved washing, chopping, and boiling ingredients, often taking several hours each day. Food preservation posed additional difficulties, as refrigeration was rare. Families relied on ice boxes, pickling, salting, or storing perishable items in cool cellars to prevent spoilage. Women spent considerable time planning meals according to available resources, ensuring that every family member received sufficient nutrition while minimizing waste. Cleaning was another labor-intensive task. Floors were swept, scrubbed, or polished, carpets beaten, furniture dusted, and windows cleaned regularly. In households with multiple floors or servants, cleaning was coordinated systematically to maintain order and hygiene. Bathrooms, often limited to one per home, were scrubbed meticulously, with weekly baths scheduled carefully to conserve water and fuel. Laundry, particularly, was an enormous undertaking. Clothes were washed by hand using washboards, boiled, and then dried, pressed, and mended, requiring hours of effort and significant physical labor. Children often assisted older siblings or parents with smaller chores, teaching responsibility while helping manage household demands. Hygiene standards, though improving, were constrained by the available technology. Bathing was infrequent, and streets in urban areas could be muddy or unsanitary, leading families to develop careful routines to maintain cleanliness indoors. Pest control was another ongoing concern. Rodents, insects, and other small intruders were a constant threat, particularly in kitchens and storage areas. Managing these challenges required planning, diligence, and coordination across the household, with each family member contributing to the maintenance of comfort and health. In addition to physical labor, social expectations added pressure. The appearance of the home was closely tied to family reputation, particularly in middle-class households. Homes were expected to be tidy, orderly, and tastefully decorated, especially in rooms used for entertaining guests. This emphasis on propriety meant that even mundane chores were performed with care and attention to detail. The family's ability to manage domestic challenges effectively was seen as a reflection of discipline, moral integrity, and social standing. Despite these hardships, many Edwardian families found satisfaction and pride in their homes. The successful management of a household created an environment of order, comfort, and security. Children learned valuable lessons in responsibility, work ethic, and cooperation, while parents cultivated a sense of accomplishment in maintaining both physical and social standards. The laborious routines of heating, cooking, cleaning, and general maintenance were not merely chores. They were central to the identity and functioning of the Edwardian family. Ultimately, domestic life during the Edwardian era was a blend of comfort, labor, and social expectation. Families navigated practical difficulties with diligence and ingenuity, creating homes that balanced aesthetics, warmth, and order. These domestic challenges shaped the daily experience of every family member, influencing routines, interactions, and the broader culture of early 20th century household life. Morning life in an Edwardian household followed a carefully organized routine that reflected both practicality and social expectations. The day typically began early, particularly for working-class or middle-class families, as the lack of modern conveniences required time and effort to prepare the household for the day. Fathers often rose first, dressing in formal attire suitable for work outside the home. Shirts had to be starched and pressed, waistcoats and jackets fitted properly, and shoes polished. Attention to appearance was a point of pride, as clothing reflected both personal discipline and social respectability. Mothers, meanwhile, were responsible for preparing breakfast, managing children, and coordinating the day's activities. In households with servants, some of these tasks were delegated, but the mother still supervised closely to ensure everything ran smoothly. Breakfast was typically a substantial meal designed to provide energy for a long day. Common items included porridge, bread and butter, eggs, tea, and sometimes leftovers from the previous day's dinner. The preparation of food without modern appliances required significant effort. Coal or wood stoves had to be maintained, water heated, and utensils prepared and cleaned. Children were expected to wash, dress, and sometimes help with setting the table. The structure of morning routines extended to children's education and preparation for school. Boys and girls had distinct responsibilities. Girls often assisted their mothers with chores before dressing in neat, sometimes uniform-like clothing, while boys prepared for the day by tidying their personal belongings and ensuring uniforms or work-appropriate clothing were ready. Hygiene was managed carefully, though without the convenience of modern plumbing. A weekly bath was common, with daily washing using basins and pitchers of water. Hair combing, shoe polishing, and minor repairs to clothing were routine tasks. Emphasizing discipline and neatness, timing was critical. Households often ran on strict schedules to ensure that everyone was ready for work or school on time. Breakfast needed to be completed early, fires stoked for warmth, and lighting prepared for rooms that might otherwise be dim. In wealthier homes, this was supported by servants who managed cooking, cleaning, and childcare. In more modest households, mothers relied on older children for assistance. Tasks were often divided carefully, while the mother managed the kitchen. Daughters might prepare linens, tidy rooms, or help younger siblings, creating a coordinated and efficient household rhythm. The morning routine also included planning for the day's work outside the home. Fathers prepared for office, shop, or factory work, often reviewing schedules, documents, or orders. Mothers planned errands such as shopping, visits to neighbors or relatives, and overseeing children's education. Even leisure or outdoor activities had to be scheduled around household responsibilities. This structure created a sense of order, where every family member understood their role and contribution to the household's smooth functioning. Despite the strict organization, mornings allowed for small moments of family interaction, conversations over breakfast, guidance for younger children, and brief moments of shared laughter helped strengthen familial bonds before the demands of work and school pulled everyone into their respective routines. These early hours set the tone for the day, combining efficiency, discipline, and familial care in essence. Edwardian morning rituals reflected the era's values: hard work, order, and respectability, balanced with the need to maintain warmth, cleanliness, and family cohesion. The labor-intensive nature of these routines highlighted the skill, patience, and coordination required to run a household in a time before modern conveniences, while also providing structure that guided children's development and reinforced social norms. Education was a central aspect of an Edwardian child's daily life, reflecting both the growing importance of literacy and numeracy and the social expectations of the time. Children typically began their school day early, often following a structured morning routine at home to ensure they were clean, dressed, and ready to learn. Boys and girls had distinct experiences, though both were expected to adhere strictly to discipline, punctuality, and respect for authority. School was not just a place for academic learning, but also for moral instruction, teaching children values such as obedience, diligence, and proper behavior in society. Classrooms were often formal and orderly. Children sat in rows at wooden desks, and the teacher held strict authority over the students. Discipline was enforced through verbal correction, gestures, and occasionally physical punishment for misbehavior, reflecting the era's belief in maintaining respect and obedience. Lessons emphasized reading, writing, arithmetic, and, for girls, domestic skills such as sewing, while boys learned practical subjects designed to prepare them for future work. History, geography, and religious education were also central to the curriculum, instilling a sense of national identity, moral values, and knowledge of the wider world. Uniforms were common in many schools, especially middle-class ones, symbolizing equality, discipline, and belonging. Boys typically wore shirts, jackets, and caps, while girls wore dresses with pinafores and sometimes hats for outdoor activities. The daily routine at school was highly structured. Lessons were punctuated by breaks, and midday meals were either brought from home or eaten in the school hall. Punctuality was emphasized, as arriving late was considered a mark of poor discipline and family management. School life also involved a variety of activities beyond academics. Children were encouraged to participate in outdoor exercises, games, and organized sports, fostering both physical development and teamwork. Music, singing, and drawing were common, providing creative outlets within a controlled environment. Peer relationships were shaped by social norms, gender roles, and hierarchy among students, teaching children how to navigate social expectations outside the home. Older students might assist younger ones, fostering responsibility and cooperation, similar to roles they performed within the household. Homework was a crucial component of Edwardian education, often taking place after the long school day and following family routines at home. Parents, particularly mothers, played an important role in supervising children's studies, ensuring that lessons were completed and understood. This created an environment where learning extended beyond the classroom, integrating the family into the child's educational experience. Discipline, patience, and perseverance were reinforced at home as well as at school, reflecting the interconnected nature of Edwardian domestic and educational life. Despite the strictness of school routines, children found opportunities for enjoyment, friendship, and exploration. Playground games, storytelling, and shared tasks provided social bonding and a break from formal instruction. School was simultaneously a place of learning, moral shaping, and socialization, preparing children for both professional and domestic responsibilities in adulthood. For many, it was also a window to a broader world, exposing them to ideas, skills, and knowledge that would influence their personal development and future roles in society. Ultimately, Edwardian school life emphasized order, education, and moral training, mirroring the values instilled in the household. Children learned to balance discipline with cooperation, study with play, and obedience with emerging independence. Their experiences in school shaped their daily routines, relationships, and understanding of the wider society, creating a structured environment that guided them from childhood into responsible adulthood. In Edwardian Britain, the daily life of parents was shaped heavily by the demands of work, both outside and inside the home. Fathers typically Middle-class fathers might work in offices, shops, banks, or professional occupations such as law, medicine, or teaching. Working-class fathers often labored in factories, warehouses, docks, or as skilled tradesmen, regardless of occupation. Working hours were long and physically or mentally demanding, often extending from early morning until late evening. Punctuality, reliability, and competence were crucial, as a father's income determined the family's standard of living and social standing. For many Edwardian mothers, work was primarily domestic but equally demanding. Managing the household required constant attention. Cooking, cleaning, laundry, childcare, and coordination of servants were applicable. In wealthier households, mothers supervised maids and cooks, ensuring that domestic routines were maintained to a high standard. In less affluent homes without servants, mothers personally handled every aspect of housework, often rising before sunrise and continuing well into the evening. Their labor was unending, from preparing meals on coal-fired stoves to scrubbing floors and organizing family schedules. Domestic work was physically exhausting, intellectually demanding, and socially significant, as the mother's ability to maintain order, cleanliness, and propriety reflected the family's reputation. The type of work parents did influenced the rhythm of the household. Fathers would leave early in the morning, returning home in the evening, sometimes carrying work-related documents, tools, or parcels. Their arrival marked the beginning of evening family time and a shift in household dynamics. Mother's work, by contrast, was continuous, spanning preparation of breakfast, supervision of children, household cleaning, cooking, and managing domestic supplies. Even leisure time for mothers was limited, as supervising children's homework or completing small personal tasks competed with household responsibilities. The industrial and urban context added complexity. Many working-class fathers faced physically taxing and dangerous jobs in factories, mines, or construction, often exposed to poor lighting, machinery hazards, and long shifts. Commuting was common, with walking, horse-drawn transport, or early forms of public transport part of the daily routine. The stress of physically exhausting labor, coupled with the responsibility of providing for the family, created a heavy burden, though social norms emphasized endurance, duty, and responsibility. For mothers, the lack of modern appliances made even small tasks laborious. Laundry required boiling water, scrubbing, rinsing, and hanging clothes to dry, while cooking demanded careful attention to coal or wood-fired stoves. Shopping for food and household supplies involved visiting markets or local shops, often carrying heavy items on foot. Coordination of children's school, medical needs, and social visits added to their responsibilities, creating a demanding but structured day. Despite the challenges, work brought structure, purpose, and social identity. Fathers' occupations determined social class, income, and access to leisure activities, while mothers' management of the home reflected moral propriety, discipline, and domestic skill. Children observed these roles, learning responsibility, respect, and the expectations of adulthood. The combined labor of both parents, one in the public sphere and one in the private, sustained the family unit, reinforced social hierarchies, and ensured the household's survival and comfort. Ultimately, the Edwardian concept of work was inseparable from family life. Fathers and mothers contributed in complementary but distinct ways. shaping the household's daily rhythm, instilling values of diligence and responsibility, and reflecting the broader societal norms. While physically demanding, this work maintained social status, nurtured children's growth, and preserved the order and respectability central to Edwardian family life. In Edwardian households, chores were the backbone of daily life, demanding meticulous effort, planning, and coordination. Unlike modern homes, which benefit from labor-saving appliances, households in the early 20th century relied entirely on human labor to maintain cleanliness, order, and functionality. Tasks were often divided by gender, age, and social class, reflecting both practicality and societal norms. Mothers typically oversaw the entire operation, ensuring that each family member contributed and that the household ran smoothly. In wealthier homes, live-in servants, maids, cooks, or nannies shared the workload. But even then, the mother's supervision was central. Cleaning was a labor-intensive activity that occurred daily or weekly, depending on the type of task. Floors had to be swept, scrubbed, or polished, and carpets beaten or vacuumed manually. Wooden furniture needed dusting, often using cloths, brushes, or polish. Windows were cleaned to allow natural light to fill rooms, a practice particularly important in Edwardian homes, where sunlight emphasized cleanliness and order. Kitchens required constant maintenance. Coal stoves had to be cleaned and refueled, counters wiped, utensils washed, and cooking surfaces scrubbed. Fires were tended multiple times a day, particularly during cold months, and ash from fireplaces required careful disposal to prevent mess or fire hazards. Laundry was one of the most exhausting chores. Without electric washing machines or dryers, families relied on washboards, boiling water, and manual scrubbing. Clothes were then rinsed, wrung, and hung to dry, often in outdoor yards or attics. Once dry, garments were ironed with heavy irons heated on stoves and mended as necessary. Children frequently assisted older siblings or parents in this process, learning responsibility and practical skills while contributing to the household's operation. Laundry routines often dictated the day's schedule, as large batches of clothing could take hours to complete. Meal preparation also counted as a major chore. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner had to be planned according to available ingredients, seasonal produce, and the family's needs. Cooking involved chopping, boiling, baking, and roasting on coal or wood-fired stoves. Meals were often repetitive, but careful attention to nutrition, taste, and presentation reflected family values and social expectations. Kitchens were also multifunctional spaces, doubling as areas for food storage, cleaning, and sometimes informal learning or play for children. Mothers coordinated every aspect of cooking, delegating smaller tasks to daughters or children when possible. Maintaining hygiene and order extended to bedrooms, bathrooms, and common spaces. Beds were made daily, linens laundered, and personal items tidied. Bathrooms were scrubbed and prepared for bathing, usually a weekly event. Even small touches, like arranging furniture neatly, dusting ornaments, and polishing doorknobs, were essential in projecting a sense of respectability, particularly in the parlor or other rooms used to receive guests. Every chore, from the seemingly mundane to the physically exhausting, contributed to the household's functioning, comfort, and social standing. Children were not exempt from chores. Boys might help with outdoor tasks such as sweeping steps, fetching water, or assisting with coal, while girls contributed indoors, cleaning, mending, or helping prepare meals. These responsibilities taught practical skills, instilled discipline, and reinforced the values of hard work and cooperation. Chores were not simply labor. They formed an integral part of the Edwardian family's education, shaping character and daily routine. Overall, household chores in Edwardian homes defined both the day and the domestic experience. They required organization, physical effort, and teamwork, with mothers at the center of operations, children learning responsibility, and fathers providing support through income or supervision. These routines, though demanding, created order, hygiene, and comfort, reinforcing family cohesion and reflecting the societal values of early 20th century Britain. Even in the structured and labor-intensive life of Edwardian families, leisure played an important role, providing moments of relaxation, social bonding, and personal enjoyment. Leisure was often modest and closely tied to the home, family, and immediate community. As modern forms of entertainment, cinema, and automobiles were only beginning to emerge and were often limited to wealthier households. For most middle-class families, leisure activities reflected available resources, space, and social conventions, combining indoor pastimes with outdoor recreation. Indoor leisure was centered around the home and family interaction. Reading was a common pastime, with families gathering in the parlor or drawing room to read newspapers, magazines, or books aloud. Children were often read to by parents, reinforcing literacy while also providing a shared experience. Music played an important role in leisure. Pianos were common in middle-class homes, and family members would play or sing together. Board games, card games, and puzzles provided entertainment while fostering skills such as strategy, cooperation, and critical thinking. Even simple activities like storytelling or crafting offered a means of engagement, creativity, and family bonding. Outdoor activities were equally valued. Children often played in the garden or yard, engaging in games such as skipping, tag, hoop rolling, or simple sports. Walks around the neighborhood, visits to local parks, or excursions to the countryside were common for families, providing fresh air, exercise, and social engagement. Wealthier families might visit seaside towns during holidays, enjoying the beach, boating, or promenading along piers. These outings served not only recreational purposes, but also reinforced social norms, as public spaces were venues for display, etiquette, and the observation of proper behavior. Religious and social institutions also provided leisure opportunities. Church activities, Sunday school, and social clubs allowed children and adults to interact beyond the home, participate in community events, and enjoy structured recreation. Picnics, garden parties, and small social gatherings were popular among middle-class families, offering a combination of relaxation and social networking. These activities reinforced social bonds, taught etiquette, and allowed families to present themselves in a manner consistent with societal expectations. Seasonal variations also influenced leisure. Summers brought longer days and more outdoor play, while winters focused on indoor activities such as reading, music, or quiet crafts. Holidays and birthdays were celebrated with special meals, decorations, and small gifts, providing breaks from routine and fostering family cohesion, even within the constraints of time and labor. Families found ways to enjoy moments of rest, creativity, and shared pleasure, emphasizing the human need for recreation alongside responsibility. Leisure was not purely for enjoyment. It served educational, moral, and social purposes. Through reading, music, and games, children developed skills, creativity, and social awareness. Family activities strengthened bonds and provided a safe, structured environment for exploration and learning. For parents, leisure offered a brief respite from domestic or professional duties, while allowing them to model appropriate behavior, civility, and social engagement. Even simple activities were infused with the values of the era: discipline, cooperation, and respect for family and community. In conclusion, Edwardian leisure reflected a careful balance between recreation, education, and social propriety. It encompassed indoor and outdoor activities, family-centered and community-based engagement, and creative or physical pursuits, all adapted to the limitations and expectations of the period. Leisure time, though modest compared to modern standards, provided essential relief from labor, opportunities for connection, and moments of enjoyment. Breakfast in Edwardian households was the first important meal of the day and set the tone for both family routines and social expectations. The composition and preparation of breakfast reflected the household's social class, available resources, and regional customs. Middle-class families, in particular, prioritized a hearty, balanced meal to fuel the day, while also demonstrating domestic propriety and skill in the kitchen. Fathers often expected a substantial breakfast before leaving for work, and children needed sustenance for school and chores. A typical Edwardian breakfast included a combination of hot and cold dishes. Porridge, prepared from oats boiled in water or milk, was common, often sweetened with sugar or molasses. Fresh bread, butter, and preserves accompanied eggs, either boiled, fried, or scrambled, providing protein and energy. In some households, baked beans or sausages were included, particularly for working-class families needing extra calories. Tea was a staple drink, consumed by adults and, in some cases, children, often sweetened with sugar and sometimes accompanied by milk. The preparation of tea was itself a ritual, requiring careful boiling, steeping, and service in fine cups and saucers in middle-class homes. The labor involved in breakfast was considerable, particularly in households without servants. Coal or wood stoves had to be prepared and maintained for cooking, water heated for porridge or tea, and utensils cleaned before and after use. Ingredients were often fresh, purchased from local markets or bakeries the day before, requiring careful planning and storage. Mothers coordinated these activities, ensuring that meals were ready on time, presented neatly, and suitable for both children and adults. Older children frequently assisted by setting the table, fetching water, or helping with simple tasks like stirring, porridge, or arranging bread and butter. The social aspects of breakfast were also important. Families generally ate together, reinforcing hierarchy, discipline, and etiquette. Fathers typically began the meal, with children following instructions regarding behavior, conversation, and table manners. Punctuality was emphasized. Arriving late or delaying the meal could disrupt the carefully timed household schedule. Meals served not only as nourishment, but also as a moment to instill values of respect, responsibility, and attention to propriety. Conversation often centered on household news, local events, or reminders for the day ahead. Regional and seasonal variations influenced breakfast choices. In rural areas, breakfasts might include farm-fresh eggs, milk, and seasonal vegetables, while urban households often relied on store-bought bread, preserves, and tinned goods. During colder months, hot dishes were emphasized to provide warmth and energy, while summer breakfasts might include lighter fare such as fresh fruit or cold porridge. Wealthier households sometimes enjoyed more elaborate breakfasts with additional items such as kippers, smoked fish, or specialty baked goods, reflecting both economic status and culinary aspiration. Even within the domestic constraints of the Edwardian era, breakfast was considered a meaningful start to the day. The effort involved in preparation, the structure of consumption, and the social interaction around the table all highlighted the importance of this meal. It reinforced family cohesion, established routines for the day, and provided a moment for parents to guide children in manners, conversation, and practical skills. In essence, breakfast combined nourishment, domestic order, and social education, shaping the rhythm and values of Edwardian family life. Lunchtime in Edwardian households was typically simpler than breakfast or dinner, reflecting both practical needs and social conventions. For children, lunch often consisted of light meals brought from home to school or eaten midday if staying at home. For adults, especially fathers working outside the home, lunch could be a packed meal, a simple snack, or, for those in wealthier families, a more formal midday meal. The focus of lunch and snacks was nourishment, convenience, and maintaining energy levels for the busy day ahead. Children's lunches commonly included bread, butter, and jam, sometimes accompanied by cheese, cold meat, or seasonal fruit. Sandwiches were becoming increasingly popular, as were small cakes or biscuits, particularly for middle-class families who could afford a bit of indulgence. Lunchboxes or simple wrappers were used to carry the food, emphasizing practicality over presentation. Children were often reminded by parents to eat carefully and cleanly, as manners and table etiquette were considered important lessons even at this informal meal. In urban households where children stayed home during the day, lunchtime was modest and functional. Leftovers from the previous evening might be reheated or combined into a simple meal. Soups, stews, or boiled vegetables provided warmth and sustenance. Mothers ensured that portions were adequate and balanced, reflecting an emphasis on health and nutrition. Even the simplest lunches required planning and preparation, as all cooking relied on coal or wood-fired stoves, and clean utensils were essential to avoid spreading germs in an era before widespread refrigeration. Snacks played a smaller but meaningful role in Edwardian life. Biscuits, bread with butter, fruit, or small pastries were common for both children and adults, especially during breaks in work or school. Afternoon tea, a particularly middle-class custom, was a more formalized version of snacking. Served between 3 and 5 p.m., it included tea, small sandwiches, cakes, and biscuits, and offered a structured opportunity for relaxation, socialization, and refinement. Afternoon tea was often a social event, providing parents with a chance to entertain neighbors or friends while maintaining domestic decorum and hospitality. Children might participate, learning social etiquette and the appropriate use of cutlery, cups, and plates. The preparation and timing of lunch and snacks were influenced by household schedules. Mothers coordinated meals around the workday, school hours, and household chores, ensuring that food was available when needed without disrupting domestic routines. In households with servants, some of this work was delegated, but mothers often supervised quality, presentation, and portions. Attention to hygiene was critical. Utensils, plates, and food surfaces were carefully cleaned, and perishable items were monitored to prevent spoilage. Regional, seasonal, and social variations influenced lunchtime habits. Rural children might enjoy fresh bread and milk from local farms, while urban children relied on store-bought items or tinned foods. Wealthier families could afford a greater variety of sandwiches, cakes, and imported goods, reflecting both economic status and cultural aspirations. Simple lunches in working-class homes reflected necessity, while afternoon tea in middle-class homes symbolized refinement, propriety, and social cohesion. Ultimately, lunchtime and snacks in Edwardian families were more than a source of sustenance. They reinforced domestic order, taught children practical skills, hygiene, and manners, and provided small but valuable opportunities for socialization and leisure within the structured rhythms of the day. Even in these informal moments, the Edwardian household emphasized balance between nutrition, decorum, and routine, shaping the family's daily life and overall health. Dinner in Edwardian households was the most significant and elaborate meal of the day, serving both nutritional and social purposes. Unlike breakfast or lunch, dinner was usually eaten together by the entire family, often in the early evening. The meal reflected the family's social class, financial resources, and domestic management skills, showcasing both practicality and propriety. In middle-class homes, dinner was an occasion to demonstrate care, hospitality, and attention to etiquette, emphasizing the household's respectability. A typical Edwardian dinner included a main course, side dishes, and dessert, balanced to provide sufficient nourishment for the family after a long day. Meat, such as beef, lamb, or chicken, was often the centerpiece, roasted, boiled, or stewed depending on available equipment and time. Fish, either fresh or salted, was also common, particularly on Fridays or in coastal regions. Accompanying vegetables included potatoes, carrots, peas, and cabbage, boiled, mashed, or roasted. Bread, butter, and sometimes pickles or sauces completed the meal. In wealthier homes, multiple courses were served, including soup or kansam, a meat or fish course, vegetables, and a dessert like pudding, fruit tarts, or custards. Preparation of dinner was labor-intensive, particularly in households without servants. Mothers or domestic staff spent hours preparing ingredients, cooking over coal or wood stoves, and ensuring that food was ready simultaneously for the entire family. Timing was critical. Overcooked or undercooked dishes were not acceptable, and presentation mattered, especially in rooms where guests might be entertained. Utensils, plates, and serving dishes required careful cleaning and arrangement, with attention to table settings, including cutlery, cups, and napkins. Children often assisted older siblings with minor tasks such as setting the table, serving food, or fetching ingredients. Evening meals were also socially and morally significant. The family typically gathered together, reinforcing hierarchy, roles, and etiquette. Fathers often presided over the table, initiating conversation, while mothers ensured smooth proceedings and polite behavior. Children were taught to eat properly, use utensils correctly, and participate in appropriate conversation. Meal discussions included news of the day, reminders about school or work, and sometimes moral lessons or family stories, reinforcing both communication skills and social norms. Regional and seasonal variations influenced dinner composition. Rural households often included fresh produce and home-raised meat, while urban families relied more on market or shop-bought goods. Seasonal vegetables and fruits were prioritized, and preservation methods such as pickling, salting, or storing in cool cellars extended availability throughout the year. Special occasions, holidays, or Sundays featured more elaborate meals with additional courses and decorative touches, reflecting both celebration and social aspiration. Dinner also served as a transition to the evening routine. After the meal, the family might engage in leisure activities such as reading, music, or light conversation. Dishes were washed, stoves cleaned, and fires maintained, particularly during cold months. This period reinforced the structure of domestic life, linking nourishment with household management, family bonding, and preparation for the following day. The ritual of the evening meal highlighted the interconnection of practical labor, social norms, and familial cohesion. In essence, Edwardian dinner was more than a meal. It was a demonstration of domestic skill, social propriety, and family unity. The labor invested in preparation, the emphasis on etiquette and table manners, and the communal nature of the meal created a structured and meaningful daily event. It combined nutrition, education, and social interaction, making the evening meal a central pillar of Edwardian domestic life. Food preparation and cooking in Edwardian households were highly labor-intensive and required skill, planning, and attention to detail. Without modern appliances such as electric ovens, microwaves, or refrigerators, families relied on coal or wood-fired stoves, manual tools, and careful scheduling to prepare daily meals. The process demanded both practical knowledge and domestic discipline, with mothers, daughters, and any servants playing central roles in ensuring that food was safe, nutritious, and palatable. Coal-fired stoves were the heart of the kitchen. They provided the heat needed for boiling, roasting, baking, and simmering. Maintaining the stove involved regular addition of coal, monitoring the fire, and cleaning ash to ensure efficient cooking. Temperature control was approximate, requiring experience and judgment. Overcooked or undercooked food could easily occur if the fire was too hot or too low. Cooking multiple dishes simultaneously was challenging, demanding careful coordination and timing so that each component of a meal was ready at the same moment. Pots, pans, and utensils were heated directly on the stove or placed in ovens. And cast iron cookware was common for its durability and heat retention. Ingredients were mostly fresh and required preparation before cooking. Vegetables had to be washed, peeled, chopped, or boiled, while meat needed trimming, seasoning, and proper roasting or boiling. In rural households, ingredients were often sourced directly from gardens, farms, or local markets, ensuring freshness but also requiring careful cleaning and storage. Urban families relied on market stalls, bakeries, and local shops for bread, dairy, meat, and seasonal produce. Preserved items such as salted fish, pickled vegetables, or jams extended the variety of available ingredients, particularly in winter months when fresh produce was scarce. Meal planning was essential. Mothers carefully scheduled preparation, ensuring that breakfast, lunch, and dinner could be produced efficiently with minimal waste. Certain dishes, such as stews or puddings, could be prepared in advance, while bread and pastries were often baked early in the day. Baking involved precise measurements and attention to heat, often requiring several hours of labor. Spices, herbs, and condiments added flavor, but were used judiciously, reflecting both budgetary considerations and the culinary tastes of the era. Food hygiene was a major concern. As refrigeration was rare, ingredients had to be stored properly to prevent spoilage, particularly meat, milk, and eggs. Kitchens were kept clean, utensils washed, and work surfaces scrubbed. Mothers taught children basic hygiene and cooking skills early, emphasizing the importance of cleanliness in both food preparation and consumption. These practices were integral to maintaining family health and preventing illness, especially in urban areas where disease and contamination were more prevalent in households with servants. Cooking duties could be delegated, but mothers still supervised preparation, ensuring consistency and quality. In homes without servants, mothers bore the full burden of kitchen labor, often assisted by daughters or older children. This work was physically demanding, requiring hours of standing, lifting, stirring, and tending fires, but it was also central to domestic pride and family well-being. Skill in cooking reflected both competence and social respectability, with successful meal preparation reinforcing the household's reputation. Ultimately, food preparation and cooking in the Edwardian era was a complex, demanding, and highly structured process. It combined physical labor, practical knowledge, timing, and social awareness, shaping the daily rhythm of the household. Despite the challenges, these routines allowed families to enjoy nourishing meals, demonstrate domestic skill, and maintain order, hygiene, and respectability, highlighting the central role of food in Edwardian family life. In Edwardian households, special occasions and celebrations were highlights of the year, offering families a break from daily routines, a chance to demonstrate domestic skill and opportunities for socializing. Birthdays, holidays, weddings, and religious festivals were celebrated with particular attention to food, decoration, attire, and etiquette, reflecting both family values and social status. These events combined domestic labor, creativity, and ritual, providing memorable experiences for children and adults alike. Preparations for special occasions often began days in advance. Mothers or housekeepers planned elaborate meals, sometimes including multiple courses, desserts, and pastries that were not part of daily life. Ingredients had to be sourced carefully, often requiring trips to markets, bakeries, or specialty shops. Fresh vegetables, meat, dairy, and imported items were selected for quality, while decorations such as flowers, ribbons, or table linens added festive touches. In wealthier households, servants assisted with preparation, but mothers supervised closely, ensuring that every detail reflected taste, skill, and propriety. Birthday celebrations were particularly focused on children. Cakes, often homemade, were central to the event, decorated with icing, candles, and sometimes small ornaments. Gifts, usually practical or educational, were presented with care, and children were encouraged to show gratitude and proper manners. Parties often included games, storytelling, or small performances, giving children an opportunity for creativity, fun, and socialization. Parents and older siblings actively participated, supervising activities while fostering a sense of joy and ceremony. Religious holidays, such as Christmas and Easter, were celebrated with both spiritual observance and domestic festivity. Christmas involved decorating the home with greenery, wreaths, and ornaments, while special meals featured roasted meats, puddings, and treats not ordinarily prepared. Easter brought cakes, eggs, and small gifts, alongside family gatherings and outdoor activities. These celebrations reinforced moral and cultural traditions, teaching children the significance of rituals, family bonding, and gratitude. Gifts were often modest but thoughtfully selected, emphasizing personal effort and consideration over extravagance. Social events such as weddings, christenings, and anniversaries also demanded careful planning. Meals were prepared to impress guests with multiple courses, elaborate desserts, and carefully arranged table settings. Guests were entertained with conversation, music, and games, reflecting both hospitality and social propriety. Children learned by observing adult interactions, understanding etiquette, and participating in age-appropriate roles. These occasions were more than mere enjoyment. They served as demonstrations of family competence, taste, and moral standing within the community. Even in modest households, special occasions were marked with creativity and effort. Simple decorations, small treats, and shared meals provided a sense of celebration and pride. Families used these events to strengthen bonds, teach children values such as generosity, gratitude, and respect, and create lasting memories. The preparation, coordination, and execution of celebrations highlighted the labor-intensive yet rewarding nature of Edwardian domestic life. Ultimately, special occasions and celebrations in Edwardian families combined ritual, creativity, and domestic skill. They offered structured breaks from daily routines, opportunities for enjoyment, and lessons in social and moral conduct. Food, decoration, attire, and etiquette all played crucial roles, making these events central to family identity, cohesion, and the cultivation of respectability. Through celebrations, Edwardian households reinforced values, strengthened relationships, and created cherished experiences that connected daily labor with joy, ceremony, and social tradition. In Edwardian households, clothing played a central role in daily life, reflecting social status, gender roles, and the values of propriety, discipline, and taste. Everyday clothing was carefully selected for both functionality and appearance, balancing the demands of domestic life, work, and social expectations. While the wealthy could afford more luxurious fabrics and multiple outfits, middle-class families had to be practical, emphasizing durability, cleanliness, and modesty. For men, everyday attire typically consisted of sturdy trousers, shirts, waistcoats. Shirts were often made of cotton or linen and required regular washing and ironing to maintain a crisp, presentable appearance. Waistcoats added an element of formality, even in casual settings, while jackets or coats were worn for outdoor activities. Hats were an essential accessory, providing protection from the elements, while signaling social awareness and etiquette. Shoes were polished regularly, and clothing was repaired or patched as needed, reflecting frugality and careful maintenance. Women's everyday clothing emphasized modesty and practicality, though it was also shaped by fashion trends. Dresses or skirts paired with blouses were common, often layered with petticoats for structure. Fabrics included cotton, wool, and lightweight silks, chosen according to season and activity. Mothers and daughters wore aprons while performing household chores to protect their clothing from dirt, coal dust, or food spills. Outerwear, including coats and shawls, was necessary for outdoor travel, particularly in cold weather. Corsets were still worn by some women to maintain posture and adhere to social norms, though the Edwardian period saw a gradual shift toward slightly less restrictive undergarments. Children's clothing mirrored adult styles, but prioritized comfort and practicality. Boys wore short trousers or knickerbockers with shirts and jackets, while girls wore dresses with pinafores or aprons to protect their outfits during play and chores. Shoes were durable, often leather, and socks or stockings provided warmth. Clothing for children had to balance ease of movement with neatness, as appearance remained important for family pride and social perception. Hand-me-downs were common, reflecting both economy and the practical challenges of raising children in large families. Daily clothing maintenance was labor-intensive. Washing, ironing, mending, and occasional alterations were necessary to keep garments presentable. In homes without servants, mothers or daughters performed these tasks, often dedicating hours each week to ensure that the family appeared respectable. Starching shirts, pressing skirts, and polishing shoes were common routines. In wealthier households, servants carried out much of this labor under maternal supervision, allowing women to focus on other domestic or social responsibilities. Regional, seasonal, and activity-specific considerations influenced clothing choices. Light fabrics and colors were preferred in summer, while heavier wools, layered garments, and boots were necessary for winter. Work-related clothing had to be functional. For example, women wore practical aprons in the kitchen or garden, while men working outdoors chose sturdy trousers and coats suitable for their labor. Clothing was also a marker of social propriety, signaling family respectability and adherence to cultural norms. Overall, everyday clothing in Edwardian households reflected a careful balance of practicality, modesty, and social expectation. Garments required maintenance, skill, and planning, integrating daily labor with the projection of respectability and family identity. Through clothing, Edwardian families demonstrated discipline, taste, and adherence to societal norms, shaping appearances that reinforced both personal dignity and domestic pride. In Edwardian households, children's clothing reflected both practicality and social expectations, balancing comfort with modesty and family respectability. Boys and girls were dressed differently, reflecting distinct gender roles. Yet both styles emphasized durability, cleanliness, and age-appropriate design. Clothing was carefully chosen to withstand daily activities, chores, and play, while also projecting the family's social status and adherence to cultural norms. Boys typically wore short trousers, known as knickerbockers, paired with shirts, waistcoats, and jackets. These outfits allowed freedom of movement for play and chores, yet maintained a smart and orderly appearance. Shirts were made of cotton or linen, often requiring regular washing, ironing, and mending. Socks or stockings protected their legs, while sturdy leather shoes were essential for both indoor and outdoor use. Caps or hats were common for outdoor wear, providing protection from the sun and elements, and signaling proper attire for public spaces. As boys grew older, their clothing gradually transitioned toward adult-style trousers, jackets, and ties, teaching them social expectations and grooming habits. Girls' clothing emphasized modesty and femininity, while still being practical for daily life. Dresses with pinafores or aprons were common, protecting garments during play or household chores. Fabrics included cotton for everyday wear and wool for colder months, with lighter silks reserved for special occasions. Pinafores served a functional role by shielding the dress beneath from dirt or wear, while also allowing for easier movement. Girls wore stockings or socks and durable shoes suited for outdoor activities. Hairstyles were often simple, tied back with ribbons or bands, combining practicality with neatness. Like boys, girls' clothing evolved as they matured, transitioning from short dresses and pinafores to longer skirts and more formal garments, reflecting social expectations for young women. Clothing maintenance was a significant aspect of Edwardian children's daily life. Without modern laundry appliances, garments had to be washed, ironed, and mended by hand. Mothers or older siblings often assisted with these tasks, teaching responsibility, skill, and the importance of personal presentation. Buttons, ribbons, and laces were repaired or replaced to extend the life of garments, and care was taken to prevent stains, tears, or excessive wear. This attention to clothing reflected not only practical concerns, but also the family's pride and respectability. Economic and social considerations also influenced children's clothing. Hand-me-downs were common, especially in larger families, allowing older siblings' garments to be reused for younger children. Families prioritized durability and quality, choosing fabrics and designs that could withstand repeated use and washing. Seasonal adjustments were necessary, lighter fabrics and shorter sleeves in summer, and layered garments, woolen skirts, and jackets in winter. Shoes and outerwear were particularly important for protection against weather, dirt, and wear during outdoor play or errands. Special occasions required more elaborate clothing, even for children. Holidays, birthdays, and family gatherings called for clean, pressed garments with decorative touches such as ribbons, bows, and embroidery. Boys might wear jackets, ties, or sailor-style outfits, while girls wore dresses with lace, frills, or festive accessories. These outfits demonstrated both family status and care in preparation, reinforcing social propriety and the values of presentation and respectability. Ultimately, Edwardian children's clothing combined practicality, modesty, and social expectation. Daily wear was designed to endure chores, play, and household life while maintaining neatness and family pride. Maintenance, careful selection, and attention to social norms shaped children's appearance, behavior, and understanding of responsibility. Clothing was a tool for teaching discipline, hygiene, and etiquette, creating a balance between functionality, personal identity, and societal values within the family. Edwardian adult fashion was a defining aspect of daily life, reflecting social status, wealth, gender roles, and adherence to cultural norms. Clothing was not only a practical necessity, but also a symbol of respectability, taste, and social propriety. Both men and women paid careful attention to attire, balancing comfort with elegance, and using fashion as a way to communicate identity, occupation, and social position for men. Everyday fashion emphasized structure, formality, and durability. Suits, waistcoats, and jackets were standard for middle-class households, with trousers tailored to fit and shirts starched and ironed regularly. Collars, cuffs, and ties were carefully selected, providing subtle indicators of personal style and status. Hats, such as bowler hats, caps, or Homburgs, were worn outside and occasionally indoors, signaling proper etiquette. Footwear was polished, durable, and suitable for both work and leisure. Formal occasions required even greater attention. Tailcoats, cravats, and gloves were standard for social events, reinforcing both elegance and social standing. Men's fashion was closely linked to occupation and lifestyle. Office workers required practical yet stylish clothing, while leisure or evening attire reflected ceremonial or recreational activities. Women's fashion in the Edwardian period was characterized by elegance, femininity, and the intricate layering of garments. Day dresses featured high collars, long sleeves, and cinched waists, often enhanced by corsets that provided the era's characteristic S-shaped silhouette. Fabrics ranged from cotton and wool for everyday wear to silk, satin, and lace for more formal or decorative purposes. Accessories, including hats, gloves, parasols, and handbags, were carefully chosen to complement outfits and reflect both taste and social awareness. Shoes were often delicate yet functional, with boots or laced shoes being common for outdoor wear. Evening gowns, reserved for dinners, parties, or social gatherings, were elaborate, incorporating embroidery, ruffles, and layered skirts, demonstrating both skill and expense. Fashion also emphasized seasonal adaptation. In summer, lighter fabrics and colors were preferred, with airy dresses, short sleeves, and lighter layers allowing comfort while maintaining modesty. Winter fashion involved heavier fabrics, long coats, gloves, and hats for warmth and protection. Outerwear, particularly for women, was often tailored with decorative trims or fur accents, reflecting both function and style. Men's overcoats, similarly, were practical for cold weather, while remaining elegant and structured. Seasonal fashion ensured that clothing met both environmental demands and social expectations. Clothing maintenance was a central part of adult fashion. Starching, ironing, mending, and proper storage were essential to preserve appearance and longevity. In households without servants, these tasks were performed by women, often assisted by children. In wealthier households, servants handled laundry and pressing, though mothers supervised quality and presentation. Properly maintained clothing signified family pride, discipline, and respectability, serving as a reflection of both personal and household standards. Fashion also extended to special occasions. Weddings, parties, and public events demanded elaborate outfits, accessories, and attention to detail. Jewelry, gloves, hats, and carefully styled hair complemented clothing, ensuring that appearance adhered to contemporary social norms. Men and women were judged on their presentation, as clothing symbolized moral and social propriety as much as wealth or taste. Ultimately, Edwardian adult fashion blended practicality, elegance, and social signaling. Clothing required careful selection, maintenance, and adaptation to daily life, seasons, and events. Through attire, adults communicated identity, status, and adherence to societal expectations, balancing personal expression with propriety. Fashion was not merely decorative. It was a structured and meaningful aspect of Edwardian life, influencing interactions, perceptions, and family reputation. Special occasions in Edwardian households demanded clothing that reflected both social status and cultural propriety, with greater attention to elegance, detail, and presentation than everyday attire. Holidays, birthdays, weddings, religious ceremonies, and social gatherings required garments that combined aesthetic appeal with careful adherence to etiquette, signaling respectability, wealth, and good taste. Clothing for these events was often more elaborate, decorative, and labor-intensive to maintain than typical daily wear. For men, special occasion attire often included formal suits or tailcoats, waistcoats, crisp shirts, polished shoes, and accessories such as gloves, hats, and pocket watches. Ties or cravats were carefully tied, collars starched. Evening events, such as dinners or parties, required black tie or evening suits, emphasizing sophistication and refinement. Footwear was polished and appropriate for the event, often with specific styles designated for outdoor or indoor wear. Accessories were chosen to complement the outfit, from cufflinks and tie pins to hats and canes, reflecting both status and attention to detail. Women's clothing for special occasions was characterized by intricate design, luxurious fabrics, and decorative details. Evening gowns, ball dresses, or formal day dresses incorporated lace, silk, satin, embroidery, ruffles, and layers to create elegance and visual interest. Corsets or structured undergarments shaped the desired silhouette, while hats, gloves, and jewelry enhanced both style and propriety. Footwear was carefully selected to match the outfit, balancing beauty with functionality for movement during social activities. Hair was styled and accessorized, often using combs, ribbons, or pins to maintain a polished appearance. Wealthier households could afford multiple, elaborate dresses, allowing women to rotate outfits for different occasions and demonstrate taste and refinement. Children's special occasions. Clothing was similarly elaborate, though adapted for comfort and age appropriateness. Boys might wear sailor suits, short trousers with jackets, or miniature versions of adult formal wear, while girls wore dresses with lace ribbons and decorative aprons or pinafores. Shoes, stockings, and accessories were chosen with care, balancing aesthetic appeal with practical considerations. Birthdays, religious ceremonies, and family gatherings often involved clean, well-pressed outfits, teaching children both the importance of presentation and social etiquette. Preparation for special occasion clothing was labor-intensive. Garments required careful washing, ironing, mending, and sometimes temporary storage to maintain their appearance. Mothers or domestic staff supervised the cleaning and preparation, ensuring that each piece of clothing was in pristine condition. Attention to small details, such as buttons, hems, and embellishments, reflected not only aesthetic sensibility, but also moral and social propriety. Special fabrics, trims, and accessories were chosen with care to complement the season, event, and family status. Special occasion clothing was more than decorative. It conveyed social identity, family pride, and cultural values. Through attire, Edwardian families communicated wealth, taste, moral propriety, and adherence to societal norms. Observers judged families by how well-dressed members appeared, making preparation and presentation essential. Participation in social events, holidays, and celebrations provided opportunities to display clothing appropriately, reinforcing etiquette, respectability, and community standing. Ultimately, clothing for special occasions in Edwardian households blended beauty, propriety, and social signaling. It required planning, care, and skill, reflecting both family values and the cultural expectations of the period. By investing time and attention into preparation, families ensured that each event was marked by elegance, order, and a demonstration of respectability, making special occasion attire a central feature of Edwardian life. In Edwardian households, clothing maintenance was an essential aspect of daily life, requiring significant time, effort, and skill. Unlike modern homes with washing machines, dryers, and dry cleaning services, Edwardian families relied on manual labor, domestic routines, and careful supervision to ensure garments remained clean, functional, and presentable. Proper maintenance was crucial not only for hygiene, but also for demonstrating family respectability, social status, and adherence to cultural norms. Daily clothing care began with inspection and minor repairs. Buttons, hems, and seams were checked regularly to prevent garments from becoming unwearable. Small tears were sewn, worn areas reinforced, and decorations such as ribbons or lace replaced or cleaned. Mothers or domestic staff typically oversaw these tasks, teaching older children to assist, fostering responsibility, and ensuring the family's appearance remained orderly. Children often learned basic sewing and mending skills as part of their household education, contributing to the family while developing practical expertise. Washing garments was labor-intensive and varied by fabric type. Cotton, linen, and wool were common in everyday clothing, while silk, satin, and lace required more delicate handling. Clothes were washed in large basins or tubs using hot water, soap, and scrubbing boards. After washing, garments were rinsed thoroughly, wrung out, and hung to dry, often in sunlight or indoors, on lines or racks. The drying process required careful monitoring to avoid mildew, shrinkage, or damage. Heavier fabrics like wool were brushed and aired regularly to maintain freshness between washes. Ironing and pressing were critical for maintaining neatness and structure, especially for men's shirts, women's blouses, and formal garments. Irons were heated on coal stoves or open flames, requiring careful handling to avoid burns or scorching. Starching was used on collars, cuffs, and skirts to provide crispness and shape, reflecting both fashion and discipline. The effort invested in ironing and pressing symbolized household diligence and the family's commitment to propriety. Special attention was given to seasonal clothing. Winter garments, including coats, hats, and boots, required cleaning, polishing, and storage to protect against wear and weather damage. Summer clothing needed careful laundering and sometimes repairs to accommodate frequent use. Clothing storage was organized to prevent damage, with lighter garments often folded and heavier items hung on wooden hangers or stored in trunks. Proper storage also reduced the risk of pests or mildew, which could ruin valuable fabrics. Children's clothing required additional supervision, as active play often resulted in dirt, tears, or stains. Aprons and pinafores were used to protect garments, but frequent washing, mending, and patching were necessary. In larger families, hand-me-downs were common, making repair and careful maintenance essential to extend the life of clothing across multiple children. Older children often assisted younger siblings, learning domestic responsibility while reducing the workload for parents. Overall, clothing maintenance in Edwardian households was a continuous and structured process, integrating cleaning, mending, ironing, and proper storage into daily and weekly routines. It demanded labor, skill, and planning, reflecting both practical needs and social values. Through diligent attention to clothing, families maintained hygiene, extended garment lifespan, and projected respectability, demonstrating the central role of domestic labor in sustaining the household and shaping social perception. In Edwardian households, indoor entertainment was a central aspect of family life, providing relaxation, socialization, and intellectual stimulation within the home. Leisure activities were carefully structured, reflecting both social norms and the limitations of technology. Without modern screens, television, or digital devices, Edwardian families relied on books, music, games, and conversation to pass the time, emphasizing shared experiences, creativity, and education. Indoor entertainment reinforced family cohesion while teaching children social skills, patience, and moral values. Reading was one of the most common indoor pastimes. Families often gathered in the parlor or drawing room to read newspapers, magazines, or books aloud. Storytelling allowed parents to share literature, history, or moral lessons, fostering literacy and imagination in children. Middle-class homes often featured small libraries or book collections, reflecting both educational aspiration and social status. Children were encouraged to read on their own or participate in family reading sessions, creating an environment in which learning and leisure intertwined. Music played a significant role in indoor entertainment. Many homes had pianos, organs, or other musical instruments, with family members participating in playing, singing, or accompanying performances. Mothers and older children often taught younger children to play instruments or sing, providing both instruction and shared enjoyment. Sheet music and songbooks were common, and performances could range from informal gatherings to small home concerts, especially during holidays or social visits. Music fostered creativity, discipline, and cultural awareness while providing a source of joy and relaxation for the entire household. Games and puzzles were another popular form of indoor entertainment. Board games, card games, and jigsaw puzzles offered fun while promoting strategy, critical thinking, and cooperation. Children learned to follow rules, take turns, and handle both success and disappointment, developing social and cognitive skills. Adults participated as well, creating opportunities for family bonding and gentle competition. Indoor games were especially valued during inclement weather or in urban households. Without access to large outdoor spaces, crafts and hobbies also contributed to indoor leisure. Sewing, knitting, embroidery, and drawing were common activities, particularly for women and girls, blending creativity with practical skill. Boys might engage in model building, woodwork, or mechanical toys. These activities were not only entertaining, but also instructive, teaching patience, dexterity, and aesthetic judgment. Gifts, decorations, and household items were often created through these hobbies, integrating creativity with domestic labor. Social etiquette shaped indoor entertainment. Families were expected to maintain polite conversation, avoid excessive noise, and share resources equitably. Visiting neighbors or receiving guests required structured activities such as tea, music, or games, fostering social skills and reinforcing cultural norms. Even casual family interactions adhered to patterns of respect, attentiveness, and moral instruction, emphasizing that leisure was both enjoyable and purposeful. In conclusion, indoor entertainment in Edwardian households combined learning, creativity, and social interaction. Reading, music, games, and crafts provided structured yet enjoyable activities that strengthened family bonds, nurtured skills, and reinforced social and moral values. Within the home, leisure was purposeful, balancing fun with instruction and shaping children's development while maintaining the household's atmosphere of order, respectability, and comfort. Outdoor activities were a vital part of Edwardian family life, particularly for children, providing exercise, fresh air, and opportunities for socialization. The Edwardian era emphasized physical health, discipline, and structured leisure, and outdoor play was considered essential for both physical and moral development. Unlike today's urbanized and screen-driven lifestyles, outdoor activities often took place in gardens, yards, local streets, parks, and countryside areas, offering children and adults a chance to explore, socialize, and enjoy nature. Children's outdoor play included a wide variety of games that encouraged physical activity and cooperation. Traditional games such as skipping, hopscotch, marbles, hoop rolling, tag, and hide-and-seek were common, requiring little equipment but providing hours of enjoyment. Boys often engaged in ball games or improvised sports, while girls played similar games, sometimes with dolls or imaginative role play incorporated. These activities taught children teamwork, strategic thinking, and coordination while fostering a sense of independence and resilience. Gardens and private yards were important spaces for leisure, particularly in middle-class households. Children could run, play, and explore safely under parental supervision, while adults might engage in light gardening, tending flowers, or outdoor chores that doubled as leisure activities. Gardening taught responsibility, patience, and the rewards of care and labor, while providing an aesthetically pleasing environment for the household. Wealthier families might also have greenhouses, ornamental gardens, or lawns suitable for games, reflecting both status and aesthetic taste. Walks and excursions were common forms of outdoor activity for the entire family. Strolling through the neighborhood, visiting parks, or taking trips to the countryside provided fresh air, exercise, and exposure to nature. For urban families, public parks offered open spaces for children to play, and families to socialize. While rural families often had more freedom to explore fields, woods, and streams, these outings reinforced family bonds, offered informal education about the natural world, and allowed children to learn about observation, safety, and social conduct. Seasonal variations influenced outdoor activities. Spring and summer encouraged extended play outdoors, picnics, and visits to local attractions or seaside resorts. Autumn and winter required adaptation with warmer clothing, shorter play periods, and alternative activities such as sledding, snowball games, or indoor garden work. Parents closely supervised these seasonal activities, ensuring safety, appropriateness, and adherence to social norms. Outdoor play was therefore carefully balanced with health, propriety, and environmental conditions. Social aspects of outdoor activity were equally important. Children learned to interact with peers, negotiate rules, and demonstrate sportsmanship. For families, outings could involve visiting friends, attending local events, or participating in community gatherings. These activities fostered social cohesion, reinforced etiquette, and offered opportunities for families to display proper conduct and social respectability. Even simple playground games contributed to the moral and social education of children, reflecting the era's belief in structured, purposeful leisure. Ultimately, outdoor activities and play in Edwardian households were essential for health, skill development, and family bonding. They combined physical exercise, imaginative engagement, and social learning, providing a balanced complement to indoor entertainment. Gardens, parks, streets, and countryside spaces became arenas for both recreation and education, shaping children's growth while reinforcing the household's values of discipline, social propriety, and structured leisure. Outdoor life was, therefore, a cornerstone of Edwardian daily living, integrating enjoyment, exercise, and social interaction. Hobbies and creative pursuits were an essential part of Edwardian family life, offering relaxation, self-expression, and intellectual engagement. In an era without modern digital entertainment, households relied on activities such as music, drawing, painting, sewing, and model making to provide enjoyment and personal development. These pursuits also reinforced social values, domestic skills, and family cohesion, blending recreation with education and moral instruction. Music was among the most widespread and valued hobbies. Pianos, organs, and smaller instruments such as violins or flutes were common in middle-class homes. Children and adults alike engaged in playing, singing, or composing simple melodies. Family music sessions encouraged participation, coordination, and creativity while providing shared enjoyment. Learning an instrument demanded discipline, patience, and practice, making music both an entertaining and character-building activity. Sheet music and songbooks were often treasured possessions, reflecting both cultural aspirations and personal interests. Visual arts, such as drawing, painting, and sketching, were another popular avenue for creative expression. Children often learned basic drawing skills in school and continued practicing at home, sometimes guided by parents. Adults might engage in more advanced art forms, producing landscapes, portraits, or decorative illustrations. Art supplies, including watercolors, pencils, and sketchbooks, were considered investments in education and refinement. Creating art nurtured imagination, observation skills, and attention to detail, while also producing items that could be displayed, gifted, or used for decoration within the household. Textile crafts were common, particularly for women and girls. Sewing, embroidery, knitting, and crocheting combined creativity with practical utility, producing clothing, decorative household items, or gifts. Patterns and techniques were often passed down through generations, blending tradition with individual artistic expression. Boys might engage in model making, carpentry, or simple mechanical projects, providing opportunities for problem solving, precision, and hand-eye coordination. These hobbies encouraged patience, focus, and skill development, with the added reward of tangible results. Collecting was another popular hobby. Families and children collected stamps, coins, shells, or small natural objects, often cataloging them or displaying them in dedicated boxes. This pursuit encouraged curiosity, organization, and knowledge about geography, history, or science. Collecting also offered social opportunities, as children exchanged items with friends or participated in community clubs, reinforcing social connections and a sense of accomplishment. Hobbies often intersected with household labor and social interaction. Sewing, knitting, or model making could produce practical items for family use, gifts for friends, or decorations for special occasions. Music and art sessions often involved multiple family members, blending recreation with instruction and shared experience. Participating in hobbies demonstrated diligence, creativity, and refinement, all qualities valued in Edwardian society. In conclusion, hobbies and creative pursuits in Edwardian households were multifaceted, combining leisure, skill development, and moral education. Music, visual arts, textile crafts, model making, and collecting provided outlets for expression, learning, and family engagement. These activities nurtured imagination, discipline, and practical skill while fostering social bonds and cultural awareness. Hobbies were not merely pastimes. They were integral to the rhythm of daily life, balancing work, study, and recreation in ways that enriched both children and adults. Social gatherings and community entertainment were integral to Edwardian life, providing opportunities for interaction, recreation, and cultural engagement outside the immediate household. These events allowed families to reinforce social connections, display respectability, and participate in broader community life. Unlike modern digital entertainment, Edwardian social activities were largely face-to-face and often structured around formal etiquette, reinforcing both communal bonds and moral standards. One of the most common forms of community entertainment was visiting or receiving neighbors and relatives. Afternoon teas, dinner parties, and small gatherings provided occasions for polite conversation, music, and games. Families prepared refreshments, including tea cakes and biscuits, creating a hospitable environment that reflected both taste and propriety. Children were often included in these gatherings, learning social etiquette, polite conversation, and the art of hosting or being a considerate guest. Such interactions reinforced family reputation and social cohesion within neighborhoods. Public events, including fairs, markets, church gatherings, and local celebrations, were important for social engagement. These occasions allowed families to connect with the wider community, enjoy entertainment, and expose children to social norms and communal values. Activities at fairs might include games, rides, small performances, and competitions, offering enjoyment while fostering observation skills, patience, and cooperation. Church-based events, including Sunday schools, concerts, or charitable activities, emphasized moral education alongside recreation, teaching children about responsibility, generosity, and community participation. Music and dance were common features of social entertainment. Families attended local concerts, community dances, or amateur performances, while children often practiced music or dancing to participate. Dancing taught rhythm, coordination, and etiquette, while attending concerts exposed families to culture, artistry, and social refinement. These activities provided both enjoyment and education, demonstrating the interconnectedness of leisure, morality, and social standing. Games and sports extended into community spaces, particularly for children. Organized games, croquet, or lawn tennis in parks or large gardens allowed physical activity while fostering social interaction. Boys and girls learned rules, fair play, and cooperation, often competing or collaborating with peers from neighboring families. These activities reinforced physical health and social skills, offering a structured, supervised outlet for energy and learning. Special community events, such as festivals, public holidays, or civic celebrations, were highlights of the year. Families prepared carefully, often dressing in formal or festive clothing, bringing food, and participating in parades or organized entertainment. These gatherings provided cultural enrichment, a sense of belonging, and an opportunity to display family propriety and taste to the wider community. Participation reinforced social bonds, cultivated civic awareness, and offered memorable experiences for children and adults alike. Ultimately, social gatherings and community entertainment were essential components of Edwardian life. Blending leisure, education, and socialization, they nurtured family relationships, fostered moral and social development, and strengthened connections within the wider community. These activities demonstrated that entertainment was not merely for pleasure, but also served to teach etiquette, responsibility, and cultural awareness, enriching the rhythm and values of daily life. Seasonal and holiday pastimes were a vital part of Edwardian family life, providing structured leisure, cultural enrichment, and memorable experiences throughout the year. These activities reflected the rhythms of nature, religious traditions, and social expectations, offering children and adults opportunities for recreation, education, and family bonding. Seasonal play and celebrations emphasized both enjoyment and moral development, reinforcing values such as patience, cooperation, and community engagement. Spring and summer encouraged outdoor activities and excursions. Families took advantage of warmer weather to visit gardens, parks, and the countryside, combining fresh air, exercise, and observation of nature. Children played games such as skipping, hoop, rolling, and tag, while older siblings or parents might lead more structured activities like croquet or gardening projects. Seasonal fruits, flowers, and small outdoor crafts enriched these experiences, teaching children about growth, responsibility, and aesthetics. Picnics were a common pastime, with meals prepared at home and enjoyed outdoors, providing both nourishment and an opportunity for social interaction. Autumn brought harvest-themed activities and preparation for colder months. Families collected fruits, nuts, and vegetables from gardens or local markets, sometimes involving children in preserving and storing food for winter. Craft projects using natural materials such as leaf art or seed planting were popular, combining creativity with education about nature and responsibility. Seasonal fairs and community events offered structured entertainment, including competitions, games, and musical performances, allowing families to connect with neighbors while enjoying the festive atmosphere. Winter pastimes often centered around indoor activities, though snow and ice created opportunities for outdoor recreation when conditions permitted. Sledding, snowball games, and ice skating were safe and accessible. Indoor pursuits included board games, storytelling, music, and crafting, providing warmth, comfort, and intellectual engagement during shorter daylight hours. Families prepared for holiday celebrations, such as Christmas, by decorating the home, baking special treats, and making gifts or ornaments. These traditions reinforced family unity, social etiquette, and creativity, ensuring that winter months remained engaging and meaningful. Holidays themselves were focal points of seasonal leisure. Christmas was marked by decorating trees, preparing feasts, and exchanging gifts, while Easter involved egg hunts, baking, and church-related observances. Special clothing, particularly for children, was worn to signify the importance of the occasion. Religious and civic celebrations, including birthdays, anniversaries, and national holidays, were similarly observed, with structured activities, food, and social gatherings. These occasions emphasized both festivity and propriety, teaching children the significance of ceremony, gratitude, and social etiquette. Preparation for seasonal and holiday pastimes often involved substantial household labor. Meals, decorations, and clothing had to be arranged in advance, sometimes requiring days of work. Mothers, older children, and domestic staff collaborated to ensure that festivities were successful, blending domestic skill with creativity. Children participated in age-appropriate ways, learning responsibility and contributing to the family's collective effort. The combination of preparation, participation, and celebration created a sense of anticipation, accomplishment, and shared joy. Ultimately, seasonal and holiday pastimes in Edwardian households were more than mere leisure. They structured family life around cultural, social, and natural rhythms. These activities nurtured physical health, creativity, moral understanding, and social skills, while reinforcing family cohesion and respectability. By blending work, play, and celebration, Edwardian families cultivated traditions and memories that shaped childhood experiences and fostered a sense of continuity, identity, and community throughout the year.